Hi everyone, this is Killshot from 99 Gaming, and this is The Walking Dead Season 7, Negan Spared Glenn. So I know a lot of you are tuning in with a glimmer of hope, an ounce of faith that perhaps Negan showed some mercy and did not kill Glenn. That is not what we're going to discuss. In fact, we're going to tag onto a video that I did yesterday and show you exactly how Negan killed Glenn, but we're also going to tell you in doing so how he spared Glenn as well. So thanks all of you guys for tuning in. Appreciate your daily input, your opinions, and also your comments. So iconic comic death, 3 words I've heard over and over and over again. It has to be this way because it was in the comics. To a degree, I think a lot of television fans are getting tired of hearing it. We know exactly what happens. We know how Glenn dies. We know that Glenn got beat down with a baseball bat. But just because it happened in the comics does not mean it's going to be portrayed the same way. In fact, AMC has changed many, if not almost all of the deaths. Haven't we been here before? Haven't we already got that foreshadowing that Glenn is going to get beat down with a bat? I mean, look at Daryl and Glenn side by side, but not only the foreshadowing of the bat, keep in mind, this scene is almost replicated a little bit later on. There's Glenn and Daryl, and right in front of Negan, both of them, once again, someone with a baseball bat. But here's the tricky part to this one. This time they're not tied up, they're not gagged, they're able to intervene. So I think this is not iconic for TV fans because we've already seen it before. We've already seen that hint of it, and because we've seen it, we're desensitized to it, and which is exactly why I think AMC is going to completely change the storyline. So let's talk about some of the history and the quick deaths and the shock. AMC has a history of giving us these sudden and unexpected deaths. Remember Rick and Shane, this scene here with Herschel, the governor holding the katana. I actually thought for a moment that Rick was going to be able to negotiate for Herschel's life. Obviously, we know that's not what happened. But the scene that transpired afterwards with Maggie and Beth looking through the chain link fence, and then all of a sudden the fear, the pain, everything kicked in, and they start shooting the weapons. It becomes like all-out war. And let's fast forward a little bit. Remember the sudden death with Beth. Did not see that coming as well either. And then Daryl walks her out. Maggie, once again, just traumatized. So all these scenes of Maggie and all the perils that she had to go through with her father, with her sister, it's just left this impact, and the person that's been there through the entire adventure is Glenn. And this is just one additional reason why I don't think that Negan is going to turn Glenn into ground beef. I think this is actually going to be a much slower, a much more methodical, and there's going to be more of that story, more of that love scene that's going to transpire. Everywhere that Maggie has been, Glenn has always come back to her over and over and over again. And because of that, it's actually made Maggie into a real hardened, a real tough type of character. I mean, remember when they went to Hilltop, she was Rick's right-hand man. She was the negotiator. Even before Negan said, give us half your shit, Maggie said, give us half and we will take care of Negan permanently. So I think the storyline is going to mix up a little bit from the comic. Remember, in the comic, she blames Rick for Glenn's death, but because she was up there negotiating, she's probably not going to be able to blame Rick, and that's why I don't think they're going to have the slugfest at the end of the death scene. So let's go back to a little bit of foreshadowing. These writers are really, really tricky. So you talk about pictures. Remember when Maggie and Glenn finally reunited, Maggie burned the picture. It was the last picture she had, and she said, you don't need a picture of me. You never will again. That's not the only time she said that. If you guys remember, actually when she was in the tunnel with Aaron, she said, I burned his last picture of me. I just want to see his face. That's when she announced that she was pregnant. And I think you have to really focus in on the fact she wants to see his face, because if Negan beats him down with a bat, he's going to be unrecognizable. There's the third part of that foreshadowing. All of these Polaroid pictures, once again, they're unrecognizable. And I think the way that Glenn is going to go out is not going to be in a bloody mess. It's going to be this shootout, this love scene to the bitter end. Let me know what you guys think. A lot of good comments from the video I did yesterday. So that brings me to Negan spared Glenn the Bat, but not the death. So I posted a video yesterday, over 2,000 comments, some very passionate responses. And if you guys didn't see that, I'll just recap it really quick. So in that video, I kind of restructured the death scene. You can see the triangle on the right is where Rick will be moved up to. The triangle on the left is where Abraham will be moved up to. The pool of blood would be Abraham, and then Glenn and Daryl both rush in. Purple rectangle represents Daryl's blanket. So we know that Daryl loses his blanket. We've seen it in the sneak peek. We've seen it in the spoilers. We also know that from Spoiling Dead's fan page site that Daryl gets taken prisoner. So Daryl is not involved in the death scene whatsoever. Furthermore, I've actually shown you in another video exactly where Daryl gets taken prisoner, held hostage, and tortured by Negan. Remember the scene where Negan walks in with the clock in the background holding Lucille? So let's fast forward that to the gun scene. We know that Negan took the gun away from Carl. The gun will be used to shoot Glenn, not necessarily kill him, but he's going to bleed out. And the irony to that, once again, is the inscription of Lucille on the gun. So Glenn will technically still be Lucille'd. And because Glenn will ultimately die by gunshot and bleed out, it's going to give him those extra moments to spend with Maggie, and I think that's where the real love scene, the heart-wrenching part, is going to play in. Keep in mind, in the trailer, at 24 seconds, Rick looks over to the right, and you hear Maggie say, Glenn. When the camera pans back out to the pool of blood, you don't see Maggie over there, so it's not Glenn's pool of blood there. Maggie is with Glenn at that moment. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And in our closing segment, and I know a lot of people will disagree, I think focusing on the love between Glenn and Maggie will be much more iconic for television than a bloody beatdown. Many of the actors have been very outspoken about this scene. Andrew Lincoln, watch the show with someone you love and hold them tight. But a lot of these quotes have been geared toward it's going to be devastating, it's going to be heart-wrenching. Now, Melissa McBride gave almost an identical quote. Watch the show with a loved one and hold them close. Norman Reedus said it's very heavy. Actors have been throwing the script. They've been getting sick while they were filming. I mean, this is devastating. In my experience, this is the way families watch bloody beatdowns and horror films, and this is the way couples watch something that's going to be a romantic twist and heart-wrenching. So let's heed the actor's advice. Let me know what you're doing, who you're going to be watching it with. In a lot of ways, I think we started to take this relationship for granted, and the AMC special last night really reminded me how attached I am to all of these characters, and Glenn and Maggie in particular. And Glenn has dodged death so many times that you just assume it's going to keep happening over and over again. And I think it's wishful thinking because we saw the scene with Glenn and Maggie holding baby Judith, and we just hope they're going to get to a point in Hilltop where they have baby Herschel and they get to experience this together. Sadly, it's not going to happen that way, and I think we really need to start to prepare for it. And because of the way Glenn's death is going to go down, I think Negan will actually spare him a few additional seconds or a few additional minutes, and it's going to put us in that perspective of Maggie so we can share her agony once again. It's going to be much like the POV perspective from the end of Season 6. Thanks everyone for watching. Appreciate all your comments, all your opinions, everything you guys provide for this channel. Looking forward to interacting with each and every one of you. My name is Killshot. Give this video a thumbs up. Peace.